The Great Hall of the Galactic Council floated in the darkness of space, a massive station built from metals that humans had never seen before. 12 species had come together to create this place, and for 10,000 years, it had been the center of all power in the known galaxy. Today, the hall was full. Representatives from every major civilization sat in their seats, their eyes fixed on the figure standing at the center of the room. High Arbiter Voss was not like other beings. His body was made of living crystal, and light passed through him in strange and beautiful ways. He was old, older than most planets, and he had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. But today, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. He felt excited. "The vote is complete," he announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "By unanimous decision, the Galactic Council hereby declares total war against the species known as humanity." The representatives nodded and made sounds of approval. This was the right decision. Humans had been a problem since the moment they left their small blue planet. They expanded too fast. They asked too many questions. They refused to follow the rules that every other species had accepted without complaint. "They will learn," said Commander Thrall, a creature that looked like a giant insect with armor made of bone. "They will beg for mercy, and we will teach them their place." Voss raised one crystalline hand. "Send the declaration to Earth. Let them know what is coming." The message traveled across the stars at speeds that broke the laws of physics. It passed through empty space, past dead worlds and living ones, until it finally reached a small planet covered in blue oceans and green land. Earth received the message at exactly 2:47 p.m. Korean Standard Time. Admiral Una Park was sitting at her desk when her computer made a sound. She was eating instant noodles from a cup, the cheap kind that she had loved since her university days. Her office was not impressive. The paint on the walls was old, and there was a small plant on her windowsill that she kept forgetting to water. A cat, orange and fat, slept on a pile of documents in the corner. Una put down her chopsticks and looked at the screen. She read the message once. Then she read it again. Then she picked up her chopsticks and continued eating. "Do-hyun," she called out. A young man appeared at her door. Lieutenant Do-hyun Kim was 26 years old and had been working for the Admiral for exactly 3 months. He was still nervous around her, though she had never given him any reason to be. "Yes, Admiral? Did you see this message from the Galactic Council?" Do-hyun nodded quickly. "Yes, Admiral. They have declared war on humanity. Should I alert the Defense Committee? Should I call an emergency meeting? Should I?" "Do-hyun." "Yes, Admiral?" "Calm down." Una slurped her noodles loudly. "Forward the message to department heads. Use the subject line, "FI apparently, we're at war again," and add a note that we will discuss it on Monday." Do-hyun stared at her. "Monday? Admiral? They have declared war. They are sending 40,000 ships to destroy us." Una looked at him with tired eyes. She had been doing this job for 23 years. She had seen first contact with 7 different alien species. She had survived 2 attempted invasions, 1 civil war, and a particularly bad flu season that had shut down half of command for 3 weeks. A declaration of war was, in her professional opinion, not that special. "Do-hyun, what day is it today?" "Friday, Admiral. And what happens on weekends? People rest?" "Exactly." Una finished her noodles and threw the cup into the trash. "Our soldiers have been working hard. They deserve their time off. The aliens can wait." Do-hyun wanted to argue, but he had learned that arguing with Admiral Park was like arguing with a mountain. The mountain would simply wait until you got tired and gave up. "Should I cancel shore leave?" he asked weakly. "No. Let them finish their weekend. We will deal with the war on Monday." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Council's combined fleet began to move. 40,000 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a moon. Commander Thrall stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars pass by. He imagined the fear that must be spreading across Earth at this very moment. He imagined their leaders arguing, their people running, their soldiers trembling. He was wrong about all of it. On Earth, the news spread slowly. Most people saw the headline on their phones while they were eating dinner or watching television. Galactic Council declares war, it said in bold letters. People read it, shrugged, and went back to what they were doing. A farmer in the countryside complained that this would probably affect crop prices. A student in Seoul wondered if this meant her exams would be cancelled. A businessman on a train hoped that the war would at least make his company's stock go up. Nobody panicked. Nobody ran. Nobody screamed. The Council's diplomatic channel received exactly one response from Earth. It came from the Office of Interstellar Relations, a small department that most humans did not even know existed. The message was short and professional. Dear Galactic Council, your declaration of war has been received and acknowledged. Please note that our office hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Korean Standard Time. We will respond to formal inquiries during business hours. For urgent matters, please leave a message after the tone. Thank you for your patience, and have a pleasant day. High Arbiter Voss read this message 17 times. He showed it to his advisors. He analyzed it for hidden meanings, secret codes, or signs of psychological warfare. He found nothing. It was exactly what it appeared to be, an automated response, telling him to call back during office hours, for the first time in 3,000 years. Voss did not know what to do. Admiral Una Park went home at 6 p.m., exactly as she always did. She fed her cat, watched the evening news, and went to bed early. Tomorrow was Saturday, and she planned to sleep in. The war could wait. Commander Thrall had conquered 11 worlds. He had burned cities, destroyed fleets, and made entire species surrender with nothing more than the sight of his ships. He was feared across the galaxy, and he had never known failure. Today, he was arguing with a machine. The Vanguard fleet had arrived at the edge of the Sol system 3 days after the declaration. 2,000 ships, the fastest and most deadly in the Council's navy, had traveled across the stars to begin the destruction of humanity. They expected resistance. They expected weapons platforms, defense satellites, and desperate human ships trying to slow them down. Instead, they found a small metal box floating in space. Attention! Incoming vessels, the box announced in a pleasant female voice. Welcome to the Sol system. Before proceeding, please submit arrival documentation, including species identification, purpose of visit, and expected duration of stay. Failure to comply may result in fines up to 500,000 galactic credits and possible impoundment of vessels. Thank you for your cooperation. Thrall stared at the screen showing this tiny object. His mandibles clicked together in confusion. What is this? His navigation officer, a small creature covered in scales, checked the readings. It appears to be an automated customs beacon, Commander. Standard human design. Unarmed. Destroy it. Commander, if we do that, we will technically be in violation of war. We are at war. We do not need to follow their rules. The navigation officer nodded nervously and gave the order. A single shot from the lead ship turned the beacon into dust. The fleet continued forward. 10 seconds later, a new beacon appeared. It was identical to the first one. Attention, incoming vessels. Our records indicate that you have destroyed a government customs beacon. A fine of 75,000 credits has been added to your account. Additionally, please submit arrival documentation, including Thrall ordered this one destroyed too. Then the next one. And the next. By the time they had destroyed 20 beacons, The total fine had reached 1.5 million credits, and Thrall was beginning to feel something he had never felt before: frustration. "Commander," his communications officer interrupted. "We are receiving a transmission from a human vessel." "Finally." "Put it through." The screen flickered, and a human woman appeared. She looked young, perhaps in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. There were dark circles under her eyes, and she was holding a cup of something that steamed. Behind her, Thrall could see what appeared to be a very small ship with paint peeling off the walls. "Hey," the woman said. She yawned. "You guys are the war fleet, right?" Thrall straightened his armored body. "I am Commander Thrall of the Varek Swarm. We are the vanguard of the Galactic Council's invasion force. We have come to—" "Yeah, cool. I got the memo." The woman took a sip from her cup. "I'm Captain Jisoo Han, Border Patrol Unit 7. Look, I'm going to need you to hold position for about 6 hours." Thrall's multiple eyes blinked in confusion. "Hold position? We are here to conquer your world. We do not take orders from. There's a solar yacht race happening near Mars right now." Jisoo continued, completely ignoring him. "If you pass through, you'll mess up the satellite coverage. People have been waiting all year for this race. The betting pools are huge. My brother has money on the Bizen Thunder, and if he loses because of you guys, I'll never hear the end of it. This is absurd. We are an invasion fleet." Jisoo scratched her head. "Okay, but the race will be over in 6 hours. Can you just wait?" "No, we will not wait. I demand to speak with your military leadership immediately." "Admiral Park?" Jisoo checked something off-screen. "She's in a meeting right now. I can take a message." Thrall's mandibles clicked together rapidly, a sign of extreme anger in his species. What meeting could possibly be more important than an invading army? Jisoo shrugged. "I don't know her schedule, man. She's the Admiral. She's busy." On Earth, in her small apartment in Seoul, Admiral Yuna Park was not in a meeting. She was sitting on her couch, wearing comfortable clothes, with her orange cat on her lap. The yacht race was playing on her television, and she was very invested. Come on," she muttered as the ships rounded a marker near the Martian moon. "Don't lose now." Her phone buzzed. A message from Captain Taeyeon Lee, her second in command. "Admiral, the alien vanguard has arrived. They are demanding to speak with you." Yuna typed back without looking away from the screen. "Tell them I'm busy." They seem very angry. They can be angry. I'm watching the race. Taeyeon was standing on the bridge of the defense station in orbit around Earth. He was a calm man, the kind of person who never raised his voice even when things were exploding around him. This quality had served him well in his career. "Captain Han," he said into his communicator, "please inform the alien commander that Admiral Park sends her regards and asks that they wait patiently. We will address their concerns in due time." Jisoo grinned. "Got it." She turned back to Thrall, who had been waiting on the screen with increasing rage. "So, the Admiral says you should wait patiently. She'll get to you when she can." "When she can?" "We are the most powerful military force in the galaxy. We have destroyed civilizations older than your species." "That's great," Jisoo said. "But the race is really important. Did you know the winner gets a trophy made of actual Martian rock? Pretty cool, right?" Thrall ended the transmission by slamming his claw through the communication panel. Sparks flew across the bridge. His officers stared at him in silence. "We advance," he growled. Now, the fleet moved forward. But as they passed the orbit of Neptune, they encountered another problem: traffic. Hundreds of human ships were moving through the system, going about their normal business. Cargo vessels carried goods between planets. Mining ships headed toward the asteroid belt. A luxury cruise liner, completely unarmed, passed directly in front of the invasion fleet and did not even slow down. Thrall watched all of this with growing horror. Did these humans not understand what was happening? Did they not realize that death was coming for them? On Earth, Admiral Yuna cheered as the Byzant Thunder crossed the finish line. Her cat meowed in complaint at the sudden noise. "Good race," she said to no one in particular. Her phone buzzed again. "Admiral, the aliens are advancing into the inner system." Yuna sighed and scratched her cat behind the ears. "Fine. Tell Taeyeon to start Protocol 7, but slowly. No rush. The war was beginning." But to the humans, it was still just another day. 5 days had passed since the declaration of war, and High Arbiter Voss was beginning to question his understanding of reality. He sat in his private chamber aboard the command station, surrounded by reports and intelligence data from every corner of human space. His crystalline body flickered with confused light patterns as he read the same information. For the 100th time, the humans were not preparing for war. "This cannot be." "Correct," he said to his chief intelligence officer, a creature made of living shadow named Krell. "Check your sources again." Krell shifted uncomfortably. "Arbiter, we have verified this information through 17 different methods. Satellite surveillance, intercepted communications, undercover agents. The data is accurate." Voss looked at the reports again. According to every source, human society was continuing exactly as it had before the war declaration. Stock markets were open. Schools were in session. A new drama series about a lawyer falling in love with a ghost was trending on streaming platforms. A food critic in Byzant had gone viral for rating military rations and giving them 3 out of 5 stars. "They have no fear," Voss said quietly. "Perhaps they do not understand the danger," Krell suggested. "Humans are a young species. They may not know what a galactic war truly means." Voss shook his head. "No, they have fought us before. They know exactly what we can do. And yet they act as if nothing is happening." He stood up, light bending strangely around his crystalline form. "This is either the greatest courage I have ever seen, or the greatest foolishness. I cannot tell which." On the orbital station Sejong, floating gracefully above the Earth, Chief Engineer Minho Beek finally received the orders he had been waiting for. "Protocol 7 is active," he announced to his team with a wide smile. "Time to wake everything up." His assistant, a young woman named Yoonji, looked at him with curiosity. "What exactly is Protocol 7? Minho pulled up a holographic display that showed the entire Sol system. Hundreds of dots began to light up across the map, on planets, moons, asteroids, and empty regions of space. "Protocol 7 is not a weapon," he explained. "It is a logistics network. 30 years ago, the government quietly placed manufacturing hubs and supply depots throughout the system, hidden in asteroids, built into abandoned mining stations, even floating in deep space, waiting to be activated." He pressed a button and more dots appeared. "When Protocol 7 goes active, these facilities wake up and start producing. Ships, weapons, supplies. Everything we need." Yoonji watched the dots multiply across the map. "That is a lot of facilities. And that is not even the best part." Minho switched to a different display showing communication channels. "Protocol 7 also sends out a call for volunteers from the civilian sector." "Volunteers? For what?" "For the war." Minho laughed at her confused expression. "You see, the Council thinks our military is all we have. They have counted our warships and calculated our strength based on those numbers. But they forgot something important about humans." "What is that?" "We are crazy. And we have a lot of personal ships." Across the Sol system, the call went out. It was not a formal draft or a forced conscription. It was simply an invitation. "The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity. If you want to help, register your ship for auxiliary defense duties. Experience preferred, but not required. Hazard pay available. Within 6 hours, over 1 million civilian ships had registered. Lieutenant Sujin Choi was a tactical analyst working directly under Admiral Park. She was smart, efficient, and rarely surprised. But today, she was staring at her data with wide eyes. "Admiral," she said carefully, "I have the updated numbers you requested." Yuna looked up from her desk. She had finally returned to work after her weekend off, and she seemed almost refreshed. Almost. "Go ahead." "We currently have approximately 200,000 combat-ready military vessels in the Sol system. These include destroyers, carriers, and various support ships. Standard numbers." "What else?" Sujin took a deep breath. "Additionally, we have received volunteer registrations from 1.3 million civilian ships. These include cargo vessels, mining ships, salvage operators, personal yachts, and—" She paused. "Several ice cream trucks that have been modified for space travel." Yuna raised an eyebrow. "Ice cream trucks?" "Yes, Admiral. Apparently, there's a very dedicated community of people who convert old ice cream trucks into spacecraft. They are surprisingly well armed." "What are they armed with?" "Mining lasers, mostly. Some have added torpedo launchers. One has something called a megahorn that can broadcast sound at dangerous levels." Yuna nodded slowly. "And these people volunteered to fight in a galactic war?" "Yes, Admiral. Many of them seem excited." Across the system, the volunteers were indeed excited. Hyunwoo Jang, a 53-year-old cargo runner who had been flying freight between planets for 30 years, registered his ship within minutes of receiving the call. His vessel, the Lucky Star, was old and patched together with parts from 6 different manufacturers. But it was fast, tough, and equipped with a mining laser that Hyunwoo had personally modified to be extra spicy. "Finally," he said to himself as he filled out the registration form, "something interesting is happening." His wife, who was watching him from the doorway of their small apartment, shook her head. "You are 53 years old. You have bad knees. Why are you volunteering to fight aliens?" Hyunwoo grinned. "Because it sounds fun." On the Council flagship, Commander Thrall received the latest intelligence report with growing confusion. The humans were not building superweapons. They were not forming desperate alliances. They were simply calling up their citizens and asking if anyone wanted to help. "This is madness," he said to his officers. "They are sending civilians against us. Cargo ships and mining vessels. They do not even have proper weapons." One of his officers, a careful creature named Vesh, raised a tentacle. "Commander, I should note that many of these civilian ships have been modified. Our analysis suggests that some of them are actually quite dangerous." "Dangerous?" "They are civilians." "Yes, but humans have a strange relationship with their personal vehicles. They modify them, upgrade them, add features. Many of these ships have more firepower than our standard fighter craft." Thrall dismissed this with a wave of his armored claw. "It does not matter. We have 40,000 warships. They have a collection of modified cargo vessels. The outcome is certain." But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered that something was very wrong. An enemy that did not fear you was an enemy you did not understand. And an enemy you did not understand was the most dangerous kind of all. On Earth, Admiral Yuna finished her coffee and looked out her window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, an alien fleet was coming to destroy her world. She should probably be worried. Instead, she felt something closer to annoyance. This war was going to create so much paperwork. "Taeyeon," she called out. Her second-in-command appeared at her door. "Yes, Admiral?" "Tell the volunteers not to scratch their ships. I do not want to deal with the insurance claims." Taeyeon smiled slightly. "Understood, Admiral." The war was coming, but humanity was ready in its own strange way. The battle for Earth began on a Tuesday afternoon, which many humans later agreed was a terrible time for a historic event. Commander Thrall had positioned his fleet perfectly. 40,000 warships arranged in classical assault formation, the same formation that had broken the defenses of 100 worlds. Behind him, the combined might of the Galactic Council waited for his signal. In front of him, Earth hung in space like a beautiful blue and green jewel. "All ships," he announced over the fleet-wide channel, "begin the attack." The first wave of Council ships surged forward. They expected to meet organized resistance, disciplined formations of human warships waiting to fight and die with honor. What they found was something else entirely. A cargo ship painted bright pink flew directly into their path. Its pilot, a woman named Hannah, was broadcasting music at maximum volume while spinning her ship in circles that no military vessel could match. "What is she doing?" Thrall demanded. "Unknown, Commander. She appears to be dancing?" Before anyone could respond, Hannah's ship activated its mining laser and carved a burning line across 3 Council fighters. The aliens scattered in confusion, and in that moment of chaos, a second human ship appeared. Then a third. Then 100. They came from everywhere, emerging from behind asteroids, rising up from low orbits, dropping out of faster-than-light jumps in positions that should have been impossible. And they were not fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like something much worse. They were fighting like people who had nothing to lose and no fear of death. Captain Taean Lee stood on the bridge of the Gwanggaeto, trying to coordinate a fleet that could not be coordinated. His military ships followed orders perfectly, moving in formation and striking at designated targets. His civilian volunteers did whatever they wanted. "Mining vessel Lucky Star, please return to assigned position," he said into his communicator for the 5th time. Hyun Woo-jang's voice crackled back. "Negative, Captain. I see an opening in their formation. I am going through. That is not the plan. I have been flying these lanes for 30 years. I know what I am doing." Taean watched on the tactical display as the Lucky Star dove through a gap in the Council formation, spinning wildly to avoid weapons fire, and emerged on the other side with its mining laser blazing. 2 enemy destroyers fell dark, their engines shattered. Lucky Star, that was extremely dangerous and completely against protocol. "Yes," Hyungwoo agreed cheerfully. "But it worked." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out over and over. A salvage operator named Junho used his magnetic grappling arms to grab an enemy fighter and throw it into another. A delivery pilot named Seomi rammed her ship directly into a Council cruiser, ejected safely, and was picked up by a passing transport before the explosion even finished. A retired grandmother named Yinhee piloted her modified yacht with such wild unpredictability that the enemy targeting computers could not track her. The Council fleet had trained for war. They had practiced against simulations of every known species. They knew how to fight disciplined enemies, clever enemies, even fanatical enemies. They did not know how to fight an enemy that argued on open communication channels about which restaurant had the best food. I am telling you, the place on Station 3 is better. You are wrong. The one near the Mars Gateway has real cooking. Both of you are wrong. My mother's cooking is the best, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Focus on the battle." "I am focusing." "I can do both." Commander Thrall listened to these intercepted communications with growing horror. These people were insane. They were fighting a battle that would determine the fate of their entire species. And they were talking about restaurants. "Commander," one of his officers reported, "we have lost 12% of our fleet." "How is that possible?" "We outnumber them significantly. They do not fight in formation. They do not follow predictable patterns. Every time we think we understand their strategy, they do something completely different." The officer paused. "Also, several of their civilian ships have been using themselves as weapons. They ram into our vessels and then escape before impact." "That is suicide?" "No, Commander. They eject. They always eject. And then another human ship picks them up." The officer's voice carried a note of fear. "They treat their ships as disposable. They only care about saving the pilots." On the Guangdong, Captain Taehyun was handling a different kind of crisis. "Captain, pilot of Vessel 77 requests permission for a bathroom break." Taehyun closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "We are in the middle of a battle. He says it is urgent." "Fine, permission granted. But he has 5 minutes. "Understood." Also, pilots of Vessels 23 and 41 are having a disagreement about who gets salvage rights for the destroyer they just destroyed. Together, tell them to split it equally. They both want the engine core. Then, tell them I will take the engine core myself if they do not stop arguing." This seemed to work. Taehyun turned back to the tactical display, where the battle continued in all its chaotic glory. The military ships were performing well, following his orders precisely. The civilian ships were performing even better, though they followed no orders at all. High. Arbiter Voss watched the battle from his command station far behind the front lines. His crystalline body flickered with patterns of confusion and something that might have been fear. "They are not retreating," he observed quietly. "No, Arbiter, they are not surrendering." "No, Arbiter, they are not even afraid." Crow, his intelligence officer, shifted uncomfortably. "It appears that humans have a different relationship with war than we expected. They do not see it as a matter of life and death. They see it as," he struggled to find the right word, "an inconvenience." The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the Council had lost 18% of their fleet. The humans had lost less than 3%, mostly civilian ships whose pilots had ejected safely. The Council had not advanced a single kilometer toward Earth. Admiral Una Park finally appeared on the command channel. She looked exactly as she had a week ago, tired, unbothered, holding a cup of coffee. She had been watching the battle from Earth the entire time, only stepping in now because she felt it was necessary. "Arbiter Voss," she said calmly, "I am going to give you one chance to withdraw. Not because we cannot beat you. We can, but because the paperwork for this is going to be a nightmare, and I really do not want to deal with it." Voss stared at the human admiral through the communication screen. This small woman, drinking her coffee, telling him to retreat as if she was asking him to leave a parking spot. This was not how enemies behaved. This was not how anyone behaved. "You cannot win this war," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Una shrugged. "Maybe not, but we can make it very annoying for you. Your choice." The communication ended. Voss looked at his officers, at his damaged fleet, at the strange and terrible enemy that waited for him in the darkness of space. For the first time in his ancient life, he did not know what victory looked like. The Galactic Council's fleet withdrew 3 days after the battle. They did not retreat because they were defeated, though their losses had been significant. They retreated because they finally understood something that changed everything they thought they knew about war. Humanity had not been trying. "High Arbiter." Voss requested a formal peace negotiation through proper diplomatic channels. He expected the humans to demand a powerful location for the meeting, perhaps a warship or a heavily armed station. He expected displays of military strength, reminders of what humanity could do if pushed further. Instead, he was taken to a small conference room in a government building in Seoul. The room was ordinary in every way. The walls were painted a soft beige color. The chairs were made of plastic and slightly uncomfortable. There was a water dispenser in the corner that made a quiet humming sound. On one wall hung a framed poster showing a mountain with the words, "Teamwork makes the dream work," written below it. Voss sat in his uncomfortable chair and tried to understand what was happening. His advisors stood behind him, equally confused. They had prepared for intimidation, for threats, for the harsh terms that victorious species always demanded. A young woman entered the room carrying a tray. "Would you like some tea?" she asked politely. "We have green tea and barley tea." Voss did not drink tea. His species absorbed energy directly from light. But he found himself nodding anyway, caught off guard by the simple kindness. "Green tea, please." The woman smiled and poured him a cup. She set it in front of him with a small napkin, then left the room as quietly as she had entered. Admiral Una Park arrived 15 minutes late. She walked in carrying a tablet and a half-finished cup of coffee, her uniform slightly wrinkled. She did not apologize for being late. She simply sat down across from Voss and opened her tablet. "All right," she said, "let us talk terms. But I have a meeting at 3, so let us keep this efficient." Voss had spent 10,000 years in politics. He had negotiated with species older than stars and more dangerous than black holes. He had never felt as unprepared as he did in this moment. You do not wish to discuss what happened?" he asked. Why Una looked up from her tablet. "What is there to discuss? You declared war. We responded. Now we are making peace. Standard procedure. Standard procedure? We attacked your world. We tried to destroy your species." "Yes." Una took a sip of her coffee. "And now you are not. So let us move on." The negotiations lasted exactly 1 hour and 47 minutes. By the end, the Galactic Council had agreed to recognize human sovereignty over all currently occupied territories, remove all trade restrictions that have been placed on human goods, and pay reparations for what Una called emotional distress and scheduling disruptions. Voss signed the treaty with trembling hands, not trembling from fear, but from something closer to amazement. He had expected to be conquered or to conquer. He had not expected to leave with less than he started and a strange feeling of respect for the species that had taken it from him. As he left the building, escorted by human guards who seemed more bored than vigilant, he stopped and turned to his aide. "Did we ever actually threaten them?" he asked quietly. His aide, a small creature who had witnessed the entire war, had no answer. On the orbital station Sejong, the celebration was quiet but warm. Chief Engineer Minho Beek sat in the observation lounge with Lieutenant Sujin Choi, sharing a bottle of something that was technically not allowed on military stations. "What do you think they learned?" Sujin asked, looking out at the stars. Manho considered the question. "They learned that we are not brave," he said finally. "We are not fearless. We are not even particularly strong, compared to some of the species out there. Then what are we? Stubborn." Minho smiled and took a drink. "We are stubborn, and we are busy, and we do not have time to be afraid of their politics. And somehow, that is worse for them than any weapon we could build." Sujin laughed softly. "That does not sound very impressive." "No," Minho agreed. "But it works." Across the system, the volunteer fleet began to disperse. Pilots returned to their normal lives, going back to cargo runs and mining operations and all the small jobs that kept civilization moving. Yanwu Jiang filed his insurance claim for battle damage and received a surprisingly quick response. The adjuster seemed to accept hit by alien weapons fire during defense of Earth. Without any additional questions, his wife met him at the door when he came home. She looked at him with the same expression she had worn for 30 years, a mixture of love and exasperation. "Did you have fun?" she asked. Hyunwoo grinned. Yes. Good. Now take out the trash. It has been waiting since Tuesday. And so life continued. Admiral Yuna Park took her first vacation in 3 years. She went to a small island in the south, where the beaches were white and the water was clear. She brought her cat, who complained about the travel carrier the entire way. On the second day of her vacation, her phone buzzed. A message from Tyan. Admiral, we have received a communication from another alien species. They call themselves the Vorth Collective. They say they want to test humanity's resolve. Yuna looked at the message. She looked at the beautiful ocean in front of her. She looked at her cat, who was sleeping peacefully in a patch of sunlight. She typed back. Tell them we are closed for the holidays. They can try again in January. Then she turned off her phone, closed her eyes, and listened to the waves. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Vorth Collective received humanity's response. Their leaders gathered to analyze it, to find hidden meanings, to prepare for the conflict that would surely come. They did not understand. They could not understand. Humanity was not afraid of them. Humanity was not preparing for war. Humanity was simply enjoying a vacation, confident that whatever came next could be handled in due time. And that confidence, that strange and terrifying calm, would become legend among the stars. In the centuries that followed, species would tell stories about the humans, about the people who received declarations of war and responded with office hours, about the civilization that fought with cargo ships and ice cream trucks, about the admiral who ended a galactic conflict because she had a meeting at 3 and wanted to keep things efficient. They were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the oldest or the wisest or the most technologically advanced, but they were the most human. And somehow, that was enough. The galaxy learned to respect them. Not because they were powerful, but because they simply refused to be impressed by anyone else's power. And on a small blue planet, life went on exactly as it always had. People worked and laughed and argued about restaurants. They watched yacht races and complained about the weather. They lived their lives without fear, not because they were brave, but because they had decided that fear was simply not worth their time. This was humanity's greatest weapon. Not ships or lasers or brilliant strategies, just a simple, stubborn refusal to be anything other than themselves. The war was over, and tomorrow was another day.